Hello, Aradhana. So happy to see you. Well, she is a truly remarkable leader. She is not only one of the most influential people in the entire tourism industry. She speaks in events every single day. But the most important thing is that she is a wonderful person, a wonderful friend, wonderful mom, and also a delight to listen to. So we would just listen to you for hours, dear. So the first thing that I wanted to do is to welcome you. How are you feeling today? You're wonderful. So we wanted to listen to you for maybe 5 minutes or even a little bit more if we can, to just tell us a little bit about the power of tourism for making an impact. What do you see in sustainable tourism or impact tourism? And also introduce yourself as well. You are the CEO of Aptamine Partners, advising some of the world's largest either companies or governments that are working on tourism. So just introduce yourself and let us know everything you want about the impact tourism industry. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. Good morning to everyone listening in from London, sunny London. How weird is that? That doesn't happen very often, but here we are. Thank you again, Carlos, for having me. You know that I'm a big fan of your work. And I think Carlos is a great example of a person of accomplishment because he rarely sits back and lets things happen to him. He's always going out and happening to things. So congratulations again, Carlos, for putting this remarkable show together. I have to say I'm not surprised at all, but I'm enormously pleased nevertheless. So well done you. It's a pleasure and an honor to join you all from different walks of life, different parts of the world. And I'd quite like to share a little bit about travel and tourism as a sector, which is one of my many true loves. Also, I think because I genuinely believe this is one sector that can be instrumental in solving many of the global challenges that we face as a world and as humanity today. You see, everyone knows that travel and tourism as a sector is 10% of the global GDP. But the power of travel and tourism is not only in driving the global economy. Of course, it stimulates economic growth, attracts investment, creates employment, and fosters entrepreneurship. But I think what is even more important is as a sector, travel and tourism brings together 1.4 billion people together. Well, at least we did until Corona showed up. And this is each year from all over the world to embrace new cultures and ideas at a time when these human connections have never been more important than they are today. In my opinion, travel can be life-changing, perspective-altering, and an all-encompassing experience, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, and politically. I think travel unlocks the good in each one of us. It's why we grow more compassionate with every trip that we take. It's why we get more daring with each new dish that we try. And it's why we are more open every time we meet a new person or a stranger on the streets. Travel opens our mind. We are moved as we move. And every time we change our geography, I think it helps us think anew about our own place in the world. One of my favorite authors has this famous quote which says, "Travel saves us from a life of abstraction," and I couldn't agree more. But paradoxically enough, despite half a century of incredible growth, despite democratizing travel and connecting every inch of the planet, travel and tourism has not gone far enough or fast enough to help solve some of the most critical challenges facing the world today, facing humanity today. Not climate change, not health, not diversity or equality. And quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I think the time is ticking for us to implement a plan that is going to address these pressing issues in the world, rather than continuing on in this broken, bankrupt system that, in my opinion, meets the need of none of us. The world needs a new way of life. We need groundbreaking ways in sustainable living, in sustainable thinking. We need travel and tourism to find new ways of breaking distance and being equal. Now, speaking of equality, gender equality, perhaps even more so as a woman, is a cause that I'm deeply passionate about. Some of you would know this. Pre-pandemic, women represented at least half of all employees in my industry, travel and tourism. 54% of all people were women, actually, so more than half. However, as some of you would still know, the sector suffered its worst year on record, with tourism-dependent countries and regions obviously getting a lot more impacted than others. For instance, ILO, which is International Labour Organization, reported that 45% of people working in the sector in Latin America were made redundant. And bulk of that brunt was borne by obviously women, because it's not just the fact that women are working directly in these destinations or countries, right? A huge proportion of small, medium, and micro enterprises, which are all centered around tourism spots, think art and craft stalls, think food and beverage outlets, they are largely run by women. And generally, these businesses are not served, or they are underserved, let's say, or they're unserved by financial institutions. And the issue, unfortunately, doesn't stop there. Gender inequality continues to be echoed and reflected at the top end of business. So female representation, and I've done and published tons of research on this. If anyone is interested, please ping me on LinkedIn, happy to send it your way. Female representation falls to 40% by the time women get to the mid-level management. It's 33% by the time you are in the SVP level, which is senior level management, I guess. And that's where the glass ceiling really hits. And as a sector, which has 50% plus women in the lower rungs of hierarchy, we are unusual as a sector because we have only 5% CEOs who are women. This is shocking. And it's worse than women in technology, women in banking, women in mining, for God's sake. I mean, women face discrimination. We know this, right? The diagnosis is known. But what we now need to do is we need to accelerate with concrete solutions to build equality everywhere, because this is not happening today, guys. This is a flat line over the last 14 years, which is in other words of saying it is a structural issue which has been made worse or exacerbated over the last 18 months. And this is not because of lack of talent or selection, we know that. I think this is where aggregation of data becomes really, really important. There is a need for businesses to thoroughly assess the makeup of their workforce as it stands and benchmark and track the progress. Leaders, all of us, need to hold themselves accountable. And hard statistics are key to doing this. And I think this is where companies like 5810 come into play. 5810 measures your organization's ability to deliver on all things diversity and inclusion on SDG 5, 8, and 10. Please do look up 5810.com and do visit aptomind.com, as I said, or ping me on LinkedIn, happy to talk more. I'm going to conclude, but look, we've had an interesting 2 years, right? And challenging would be a mild way to put it, but it's not all doom and gloom. Interestingly, one of the most, I think, interesting or positive offshoots of the crisis has been that the definition of success today has changed. Today, there is a broad realization amongst businesses that profit cannot and ought not to be the only purpose. And we need to be contributing to the common good by ensuring progress, prosperity, and opportunity for every single person. We need to be of service to humanity. And that needs leaders who are not just leading with their brains, but also leading with their heart, their soul, and their gut. And interestingly, I'm quite optimistic because we're seeing a lot more of this convergence of business and capitalism woven around purpose and humanity. And it's about doing good in a way which is good for your health, good for the health of the planet, good for the local community, destination, and economy. And I'd just like to say, Carlos, your efforts to forge this alliance couldn't be better timed. There are very few things that co-creation and collective wisdom can't achieve, but we still, as leaders, need to make it happen, right? Wishing is not going to make it happen. So we have to actively rip out conditioned thinking. We have to rip out the bias, the old assumptions, and we need to move away from an autopilot towards innovation, reinvention, and growth. So let's all keep at it. Don't forget to use your voice, be heard, take chances, be bold, have a high risk tolerance, because that's how you win, personally and professionally. Thank you for having me. And like I said, please do reach out, LinkedIn or anywhere else. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aradhana. I told you she is amazing, and she absolutely is right in everything she said. We need to use our hearts as well, and there's so much potential here. Thank you so much for being here. I know you're incredibly busy, and we really, really appreciate you. Thank you.
Pleasure being here. See you soon.